So once you've got your mind made up on which one to check out, you just go ahead and hit the download button. And I've already gone ahead and downloaded Cinnamon Edition, and it'll take a little while because it's a pretty big file. It's the whole operating system. But while that's doing that, let's pop on over to the installation instructions. If you go back to the front, you can get them from right here from the home page. And I'll just briefly step through these because I think this is like one of the best installation guides that I've ever seen for for a lot of things, to be honest. But for installing an operating system, like even most of the other Linux installation guides pale in comparison to how well they did this, in my opinion. So it says Linux Mint comes in the form of an ISO image, a .iso file, which can be used to make a bootable DVD or a bootable USB stick. So this guide will help you download the right ISO image, create your bootable media, and install Linux Mint on your computer. So again, if you have an older computer, you can actually install it with a DVD. If you have a blank DVD and a DVD burner, or you are able to do that. Most modern computers don't even use DVDs anymore. They don't have disk drives. They might have a Blu-ray drive, maybe, but that'd be about it. So in most cases, for today's computers, you'll want a USB thumbstick, a flash drive, whatever you want to call them, USB stick. It's all the same thing, and you can use that to install. But let's just go through here. So choose the right edition, and then this is just kind of like a rundown. It's like some more, and it's just a short, Cinnamon, the Mate one, and XFCE. This is the most popular version is Cinnamon, and that shows you this is the Cinnamon, version. That's what it looks like on the desktop, the main startup, and then this one's quite a bit different in its looks. And then the lightweight one, it says, of course, all three desktops are great, and Linux Mint is extremely proud of each edition. Yeah, so they all will work. It doesn't really matter that much in the sense that no matter what you pick, it's not like, oh, you really shouldn't have picked that one. There's no there's no bad apples here, I guess you could say. So another consideration here, it says that if you are unsure which desktop to choose, start with the Cinnamon edition, and that would be my recommendation as well. I mean, I have been using Cinnamon for a long time now, and that's just what I use, and you get used to it, and it works really well, and there's really not any problem with it. It says try them all eventually when you have the time, and that's not a bad recommendation. They have their own audience within the Mint community, and they're all very popular. So yeah, I mean, it really comes down to preference. It's a personal preference, and don't worry about the color schemes here too. Like, oh, this one's dark and these ones are light, because you can change that for this one for sure. You can make this light just like these ones are. So it's not even a matter of that. It's not even a matter of, oh, I want the dark interface, but no, you could change that. So 32-bit or 64-bit. So this is something that is not really so much an issue anymore these days, because pretty much everything is 64-bit for quite a few years now. But there are older versions of Mint that you can use for 32-bit. It says from version 20 onwards, so this is 20.3, so we're already in the only 64-bit time frame right now, even as this video is being recorded. But for Linux Mint 19 and things like that, you could get 32-bit images still. And that's, like it says, it's provided for compatibility with older computers. So if you have an older computer, 2007-ish, 2008 maybe, probably even by then, they're probably 64 bits. If you have something from like 2004 or something, that might be a toss-up, something like that. And it says if you can try to boot. If you have an old computer, you're not sure whether or not it can run 64-bit, you can read this document here if you want. Otherwise, it says if you can try to boot Linux Mint 64-bit on your computer. If it isn't compatible, nothing bad will happen. You will just get an error message. So really, it's just, you're probably going to need the 64-bit one. I mean, anybody watching this video at this point is going to need the 64-bit. That's where the world is at. I'm kind of surprised we're not even into, whatever would be next, 128-bit, I guess, the next stage of that. But I'm sure that'll come before too much longer in the future here. So pretty much 64-bit is going to be your go-to unless you have a really old computer. And even then, even old computers still might be able to use 64-bit. So try that as a startup. And then, so once you've got the edition, here's a step here. It says verify your ISO image. This is not, I mean, it's something that it's not a bad idea to do, but it's honestly not necessary. It's not a strict requirement. This is just if, it's basically like it says right here, is an integrity check. So basically, what you're trying to make sure is that, you know, the image file that you downloaded, so basically the version of the operating system installation and everything that you downloaded, it's just a way to make sure that it downloaded correctly, is basically all of that boils down to. Errors are infrequent unless you're on a, you know, on an unstable, you know, internet connection or something, or if you tend to have problems downloading things without having them get corrupted or whatever, then you might want to go through this step. But otherwise, it's usually not necessary, not in my experience anyway. But it's up to you. You can verify it if you like, and it gives you the directions for how to do that. So here's the main thing is live boot. So create the bootable media. So let's go ahead and look in here. So it says the easiest way to install Linux Mint is with a USB stick, and nowadays that's definitely true. Once upon a time, computers were not really set up to understand how to boot from USB, you know, thumb drives and flash drives and stuff. And that was so a USB stick would have been a little more complicated, but nowadays it's the go-to way. It says if you cannot boot from USB, you can use a blank DVD. So, and that's pretty. Yeah, I would say use a DVD only if you don't have a USB stick, or if your hardware for some reason does not allow you to boot from USB. From USB drives, then you can use that as a fallback, as burning it to an actual like blank DVD. But yeah, because nowadays like I said before, most drive or most computers don't even have a DVD. They don't even have a disk drive anymore. They don't have DVD drives, or, you know, even Blu-ray. They don't even, most of them don't come with it. You can get external ones that you can plug in to USB port, and that could be one way to do it. Or, you know, maybe you have old blank DVDs lying around and an old computer you want to breathe some life back into with Linux Mint. You could do it that way too. But let's see. So let's just go through the bootable stick here. How to make a bootable USB stick. So here's the directions for if you're already using Linux Mint, but we're going to assume you're in Windows or other Linux distributions here. So it says in Windows, Mac OS, so if you're on a Macintosh or, you know, whatever, or other Linux distributions. So it says download Etcher, install it, and run it. So we're going to click that real quick just to see what Etcher is. So Etcher, it says it flashes OS images to SD cards and USB drives safely and easily. So if you're not familiar with a lot of this terminology, you don't have to get too hung up on like the words flash or OS or, you know, whatever. Pretty much all this means is you're going to be able to take the Linux operating system that you downloaded, and you're going to be able to make it into something that you can put onto your computer to make it, you know, install the operating system. That's really what it's saying. So here it says download for Windows, and that's, you know, that's what I've already got it downloaded. Actually, I just downloaded it, but if you needed to download it for something else, and this didn't detect right, you click the arrow there for Windows, for Mac, or for Linux, 32-bit or 64-bit, whatever you have. And so this is it's an open source project. So so here again, another open source software, and you'll see a lot of that in the Linux community. Like Linux is all about the open sharing, like whenever possible, you know, open source, you know, or if not open source, then at least you know, free to use, or, you know, that sort of thing. But in most cases it'll be open source, which in my opinion is great, because it's, you know, like I was talking about before in the earlier part, you know, it's more accessible, it's more visible, and you've got more possibilities there, more potential, because anybody can come along and, you know, pick up the torch, so to speak, if it's been dropped or what have you. or create entirely new things based off of it, or there's just a lot of potential. So you download this software to your Windows computer, and like I said, I've already done that, so I kind of get a few steps here. But now let's go ahead and actually do it. So let me go ahead and pull open the download. So if you're not too familiar with downloading stuff, your computer will usually automatically put it in this downloads folder here. You can find it off to the side here. It's also way over here. So you just go ahead and click the downloads, or you can click it right here. That works too. And then it shows, today you've downloaded these two things. So here's the Linux Mint installation file, and this is just a disk image file. That's what the ISO file extension is. And you may not see the .iso.exe on the end of your files, and that's just because by default Windows hides, or Windows 10 anyway, they didn't used to do this, but Windows 10 hides the file extension, is what it's called. Anything after the last dot and like 3 letters or 4 letters is what's known as a file extension, and that is what helps computers identify the type of file that it is. So in this case, .iso just means it's a disk image file. It's that's just what it is. And .exe in this case is an application to run. In this case, it's an installation application. So we'll go ahead and just do this Etcher one. I'm just going to double click on it, and it should run through its installation process. So you do need to install this software onto your Windows computer. And that'll just take it a second here, and it's got a license agreement. Go ahead and read through it and make sure it's agreeable to you before you agree to anything. Of course, as I quickly scroll through it, because I'm not concerned about it myself, but I then just do I agree when you're ready for that, and then it goes through the installation process. Alright, and it's all installed, and then it automatically ran itself. I didn't even have to open it or anything, which that's really cool. So let's see. So you can say flash from file, flash from URL, clone drive, change the device. So here it's already automatically detecting the flash drive that I have. I have a 32 gigabyte USB thumbstick in the computer, and it automatically knew, like, oh, hey, here's the one that you want. But if that did not detect, you can do change. Click the change, and then select the drive. If you had a different drive in here that you wanted it to, a different device, in other words, that you wanted to make into your USB thumbstick installation. So let's see. I'm going to see. So these, so you can see the image is slightly outdated here. So it doesn't say, select image, select drive. So, but it's pretty much the same thing. You're still selecting the disk image, which was the ISO file that you downloaded of Linux Mint. That way it knows, oh, okay, that's that's what you want to do. So in this case, instead of just select, it says you can get it from the URL. But in this case, here we are, flash from file, because we have the file already downloaded. So we do flash from file. And then we're going to go to downloads, because that's where it was before. And then here's our file. Here's our disk image file. And we go out there, and we hit open. And so then there it is. It says, okay, you have this. This is the file you're going to use to put onto the flash drive, to the the USB thumbstick. And then change your device. So if you hit change, I'll just do it. So you can say change, and then if you had other devices plugged in, so you see show one hidden, and so this is the system drive. So see, it's trying to warn you, like, selecting your system drive is dangerous, so you do not want to do that. That would not be good. So if you wanted to go back, you can just hit cancel. If you were like panicked about it or whatever, you could do change. So in this case, this is the only this is the only USB stick or external drive or anything that I have plugged into my system right now, to my computer. So this is the only one to choose. So we go ahead and select it. And then with those two steps, that's pretty much all you have to do. You've got the ISO file downloaded for Linux Mint. In this case, it's 20.3 on the Cinnamon edition, 64-bit. You choose your USB stick. It'll have a different name. It won't say Jet Flash Transcend 30. It won't say that. It'll say whatever your brand of USB stick is, and it'll say the size or whatever it'll say. But and then you just go ahead and hit flash, and then this process will, it'll probably take a little bit, because you can see here, the ISO file for the operating system is pretty big, and this user account control showed up, and that happens on Windows. It's a common thing. It says, do you want to allow this app to make changes to your device? In this case, verified publisher Microsoft Windows, so it's fine. It's Windows command processor, so just go ahead and click yes. And it may do that for a couple things, but and the 2.25 gigabytes for this ISO file, so it's a pretty large file, and it will most likely take a while to get this one. It says, while you are waiting, check out some projects, and so it's talking about some of its other stuff that it's got going on. But in general, this makes it super convenient and easy, and it does take some time, of course, but this used to be a much more arduous process to get an ISO file into the state of it's ready to plug into your computer and boot up an operating system. It used to be a much more manual process. There were more steps, and thanks to this Etcher software here, it really simplifies things, and it just makes it so it works, and it's really easier than it's ever been to set something up like this. So it's at about 18% now, and we'll just cut to where it's done. It won't take for very much longer here. It says estimated about 3 minutes, and then we'll have a USB drive or USB thumbstick that's ready to go, all set up with Linux, ready to boot and install.
If you enjoyed this video and you want to learn even more, you can find my books at bookstoread.com/Jonathan. That's books, the number 2, read.com/JONATHAN.